Welcome to our ultimate guide to social media in China. In this video, we're going to be taking a quick look at the history of the internet in China that created this amazing digital ecosystem. When you look at this table, you can easily see something is a bit different in China. These are the top 10 economies in the world, and each of those categories. So we can see in messaging, almost every country is using a platform in the Facebook ecosystem, either WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, except for Japan, where Line is popular, and China, where WeChat dominates. Then when it comes to social networks, obviously Facebook is the biggest social network in the world, except in China, yet again. And video, YouTube dominates, except for China. And then when it comes to photo sharing, social news, short video, yet again, China has its own solutions. So how did we get to this situation? Well, initially, all of the apps that were available in the West were also available in China. Then, over the years, they were gradually blocked and no longer worked or were accessible in the Chinese market. And instead, what's happened is we've had this whole ecosystem of other apps that have been created by Chinese companies and has really developed into a really diverse and ecosystem, in some ways much more advanced than the rest of the world. You might notice, those of you with sharp eyes, that one logo is on both sides of this page, and that's LinkedIn. Yes, so we'll take a quick look at what it is LinkedIn had to do to remain available in China. So when you load LinkedIn outside of China, you get video, you get the option to upload a video, and you can also post an article. But then on the right here, the version of LinkedIn inside China doesn't have these options. That's because LinkedIn doesn't have the necessary licenses to be able to host video in China. It's only available to Chinese companies with the correct business licenses. The other thing that's quite different, and LinkedIn and other companies, including Apple, have had to adapt to this law. In 2017, China introduced this cyber security law, and some of the requirements of this were that data for Chinese users had to be hosted within mainland China, on servers in mainland China. In some ways, this is similar to GDPR from the European Union. LinkedIn was very quick to adapt to this, and they made sure that all of the data on their Chinese users was located on their servers in China. And this has allowed them to be one of the very few social networks from the West that is still available in China. Okay, so the penetration of the internet in China has grown hugely over the last 10 years, from 34% all the way up to 65%. While it still lags behind many Western countries, in the case here we can see behind the US at 87% internet penetration, what is truly unique about China is the fact that the mobile penetration is so high. 99% of people use the internet on a mobile phone. And actually, the first experience of the internet for many users in China was actually a mobile device. This has meant that a lot of the internet companies have had to adapt their user experiences and their way they create products for their consumers to a mobile screen. So China really has been very much mobile first for their internet users. Another important factor to consider is that a lot of these people have joined the internet relatively recently. So while a lot of people working in marketing and living in the West have been on the internet for 10 plus years, quite a significant percentage of people in China have only been using the internet for maybe a couple of years, or less in some cases. And so you perhaps have to adapt some of the sophistication of your user to the sophistication of your users when it comes to thinking about your marketing activities in China. So Chinese netizens are just as addicted to social media as we are in the West, spending over nearly 6 hours a day on the internet or their digital devices, of which about 2 hours and 12 minutes is on social media. The interesting thing, though, that's different is that Chinese citizens have a greater feeling of privacy because of the experience of the social networks. And we're actually going to get into that in a later video where we'll take a closer look at what it's like to use the Chinese social platforms. So compared to users in the West who only post about 41% of people post online frequently, it's as high as 76% of people in China, and as much as 53% of people share almost everything about their lives on social media because they have a slightly greater feeling of privacy than you would on a social network like Facebook in the West. So in this video today, I'm going to try and convince you that China is no longer the copycat that people once accused it of being, but it's actually come to lead the world in many ways when it comes to digital innovation, particularly in consumer technology. One great example of how China is in fact ahead is this quote from Mark Zuckerberg. In 2015, Jessica Lessin, the editor of The Information, wrote an article telling Facebook everything they could learn from WeChat. And then 4 years later, in March 2019, Mark Zuckerberg wrote his open letter to the community, telling them about his vision for Facebook. Jessica commented on her Facebook how similar it was to a lot of the things that she'd recommended back in 2015. Mark commented on her post saying, "If only I'd listened to your advice 4 years ago." So it's clear Mark Zuckerberg thinks he can learn from China. If you want to watch the next video in this series about the diversity of the internet in China, click up there. And if you want to learn more about KAWO, we're a software company that helps teams all over the world to manage the social networks in China, then click down there to watch the intro video to our company.